Section 27 of the Best Short Stories of 1917. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Rel. The Path of Glory by Mary Brecht Pulver, Part 2. 4. Somehow, after the fashion of other years, they got their meager crops in. Turnips, potatoes, and Hubbard squashes put up in the vegetable cellar, oats cradled, corn husked, the buckwheat ready for the mill, even Tom's crooked furrows for the spring sowings made. Somehow, Ma, helping like a man, and Tom obeying like a docile child, they took toll of their summer, and suddenly September was at their heels, and then the equinox. It seemed to Luke that it had never rained so much before. Brown vapor rose eternally from the valley flats. The hilltops lay lost entirely in clotted murk. By periods, hard rains, like showers of steel darts, beat on the soaking earth. Gypsy gales of wind went ricocheting among the farm buildings, setting the shingles to snapping and singing. The windows moaned and rattled, the sourest weather the boy could remember. And on the worst day of all, they got the news. Out of the mailbox in the lane, Luke got it, going down under an old rubber cape in a steady, blinding pour. It got all damp, the letter, foreign postmark, stamp and all, by the time he put it into Ma's hand. It was a double letter, or so one judged. First opening it, there was another inside, complete, sealed, and addressed in Nat's hand. But one must read the paper enclosed with it first. That was obvious. It was just a strip, queer, official-looking, with a few lines typed upon it, and a black heading that sprang out at one strangely. They read it together, or tried to. At first they got no sense from it. Paris, from clear off in France, and then the words below, and Ma's name at the top, just like the address on the newspaper. Mrs. Jerry Haynes, Stony Brook, New York. It was for Ma, all right. Then quite suddenly the words came clear through the blur. Mrs. Jerry Haynes, Stony Brook, New York. Dear Madam, we regret to inform you that the official communiqué for September 6th contains the tidings that the writer of the enclosed letter, Nathaniel Haynes, of Stony Brook, New York, USA, was killed while on duty as an ambulance driver in the sector of Verdun, and has been buried in that region. Further details will follow. The American Ambulance, Paris. Even when she realized, Ma never cried out. She sat, wetting her lips oddly, looking at the words that had come like evil birds across the wide spaces of earth. It was Luke who remembered the other letter.
My dear kind folks, father, mother, and brothers, I guess I dare call you that when I get far enough away from you. Perhaps you won't mind when I tell you my news. Well, we came over from England last Thursday and struck into our contract here. Things was going pretty good, but you might guess yours truly couldn't stand the dead end of things. I bet Ma's guessed already. Well, sir, it's that roving streak in me, I guess. Never could stick to nothing steady. It got me bad when I got here, anyhow. To cut it short, I throwed up my job at the firm yesterday, and I volunteered as an ambulance driver. Nothing but glory, but I'm gonna like it fine. They're short-handed anyhow, and a fellow likes to help what he can. Wish I could send a little money, but it took all I had to outfit me. Had to cough up $8 for a suit of underclothes. What do you know about that? You can write me in care of the ambulance, Paris. Now, Ma, don't worry. I'm not going to fight. I did try to get into the Foreign Legion, but had no chance. I'm all right. Think of me as a nice little Red Cross boy and the wise Willie on the gas wagon. And won't I have the hot stuff to make old Luke's eyes pop out? Hope Pa's legs are better. And Ma, have a kiss on me. Maybe you folks think I don't appreciate you. If I was any good at writing, I'd tell you different. Your son and brother, Nat Haynes.
The worst of it all was about Ma's not crying. just sitting there, staring at the fire, or where the fire had been when the wood had died out of neglect. It's not in reason that a woman shouldn't cry, Luke felt. He tried some words of comfort. "He's safe, anyhow, Ma. 'Member that? That's a whole lot, too. Didn't always know that. Times he was rolling around so over here, you worried a whole lot about him, you know?" But Ma didn't answer. She seldom spoke at all, moved about as little as possible. When she had put out food for him and Tom, she always went back to her corner and stared into the fire. Luke had to bring a plate to her and coax her to eat. Even the day Uncle Clem and Aunt Molly came up, she did not notice them. Only once she spoke of Nat to Luke. "You loved him the most, didn't ya, Ma?" he asked timidly one dreary evening. She answered in a sort of dull surprise. "Why, lad, he was my first," she said, and after a bit, as though to herself, "his head was that round and shiny when he was a little fellow, it was like to a little round apple. I mind before he ever come. I bought me a cap for him over to Rockville, with a blue bow onto it. He looked awful smart and pretty in it." Sometimes in the night, Luke, sleeping ill and thinking long, lay and listened for possible sounds from Ma's room. Perhaps she cried in the nights. If she only would, it would help break the tension for them all. But he never heard anything but the rain, steadily, miserably beating on the sodden shingles overhead. It was only Luke who watched the mailbox now. One morning his journey to it bore fruit. No sting any longer, no fear in the thick foreign letter he carried. "He'll tell you all's to it, I bet," he said eagerly. Ma seemed scarcely interested. It was Luke who broke the seal and read it aloud. It was written from the ambulance headquarters in Paris, written by a man of rare insight, of fine and delicate perception. All that Nat's family might have wished to learn he sought to tell them. He had himself investigated Nat's story, and he gave it all fully and freely. He spoke in praise of Nat, of his friendly associations with the ambulance men, of his good nature and cheerful spirits, his popularity and ready willingness to serve. People, one felt, had loved Nat over there. He wrote of the preliminary duties in Paris, the preparations, of Nat's final going to join one of the 3 sections working round Verdun. It wasn't easy work that waited for Nat there. It was a stiff contract, guiding the little ambulance over the shell-rutted roads, with deftness and precision, to those distant dressing stations where the hurt soldiers waited for him. It was a picture that thrilled Luke and made his pulses tingle. The blackness of the nights, the rumble of moving artillery and troops, the flash of starlights, the distant crackling of rifle fire, the steady thunder of heavy guns. And the shells! It was mighty close they swept to a fellow, whistling, shrieking low overhead, falling to tear out great gouges in the earth. It was enough to wreck one's nerve utterly, but the fellows that drove were all nerve, just part of the day's work to them. And that was Nat, too. Nat hadn't known what fear was. He'd eaten it alive. The adventurer in him had gone out to meet it joyously. Nat was only on his 3rd trip when tragedy had come to him. He and a companion were seeking a dressing station in the cellar of a little ruined house in an obscure French village, when a shell had burst right at their feet, so to speak. That was all. Simple as that. Nat was dead instantly, and his companion— oh, Nat was really the lucky one. Luke had to stop for a little time. One couldn't go on at once before a thing like that. When he did, it was to leave behind the darkness, the shell-torn houses, the bruised earth, the racked and mutilated humans. Reading on, it was like emerging from Hades into a great peace. I wish it were possible to convey to you, my dear Mrs. Haynes, some impression of the moving and beautiful ceremony with which your son was laid to rest on the morning of September 9th in the little village of Eaucourt. Imagine a warm, sunny, late summer day, and a village street sloping up a hillside, filled with soldiers in faded, dusty blue, and American ambulance drivers in khaki. In the open door of one of the houses, the front of which was covered with the tricolor of France, the coffin was placed, wrapped in a great French flag and covered with flowers and wreaths sent by the various American sections. At the head a small American flag was placed, on which was pinned the Croix de Guerre, a gold star on a red and green ribbon, a tribute from the Army General to the boy who gave his life for France. A priest with 6 soldier attendants led the procession from the courtyard. 6 more soldiers bore the coffin, the Americans and representatives of the army branches following, bearing wreaths. After these came the general of the army corps with a group of officers and a detachment of soldiers with arms reversed. At the foot of the hill a second detachment fell in and joined them. The scene was unforgettable, beautiful and impressive. In the little church a choir of soldiers sang, and a soldier priest played the organ, while the chaplain of the army division held the burial service. The chaplain's sermon I have asked to have reproduced and sent to you, together with other effects of your sons. The chaplain spoke most beautifully and at length, telling very tenderly what it meant to the French people that an American should give his life while trying to help them in the hour of their extremity. The name of this chaplain is Henri Delaney, aumônier militaire, ambulance 16-27, Sector 112, and he was assisted by the permanent curé of the little church, Abbé Blondel, who wishes me to assure you that he will guard most reverently your son's grave, and be there to receive you when the day may come that you shall wish to visit it. After leaving the church, the procession marched to the military cemetery, where your son's body was laid beside the hundreds of others who have died for France. Both the lieutenant and general here paid tributes of appreciation, which I will have sent to you. The general, various officers of the army, and ambulance assisted in the last rites. I have brought back and will send you the Croix de Guerre. Oh, but you couldn't read any further, for the great lump of pride in your throat, the thick mist of tears in your eyes. A sob escaped the boy. He looked over at Ma and saw the miraculous. Ma was awake at last and crying. A new-fledged, pulsating Ma emerged from the brown chrysalis of her sorrows. "Ah, Ma, our Nat! All that? Funeral? Some funeral, Ma!" The boy choked. "My Nat," Ma was saying, "buried like a king of France." She clasped her hands tightly. It was like some beautiful fantasy. A Haynes, the despised and rejected of earth, borne to his last home with such pomp and ceremony. "There never was nothing like it heard around here, Ma, if folks could only know." She lifted her head as at a challenge. "Why, they're gonna know, Luke, for I'm gonna tell 'em. Folks that have talked behind Nat's back, folks that have pitied us, when they see this, like a king of France," she repeated softly. "I'm going down to town today, Luke." Quinque. It was dusk when Ma came back. dusk of a clear day, with a rosy sunset off behind the hills. Luke opened the door for her, and he saw that she had brought some of the sun along in with her. Its colors in her worn face, its peace in her eyes. She was the same, yet somehow new. Even the tilt of her crazy old bonnet could not detract from a strange new dignity that clothed her. She did not speak at once, going over to warm her gloveless hands at the stove, and staring up at the Grandpa Peel plate. Then, "When it comes, my Nat's medal, it's gonna set right up here, 'stead of this old thing. And the letters and the summons in my shell box I got on my wedding trip, Lawyer Richard told me today what it means, the name of that medal, Cross of War. It's a decoration for soldiers and earned by bravery." She paused, then broke out suddenly. "I've been a fool, setting here grieving. My Nat was a hero, and I never knew it. A hero's folks had naught to cry. It's a thing too big for that. Come here, you little Luke. Ma haven't been real good to you and Tommy lately. You're getting all white and peaked. Too much fretting 'bout, Nat. You and me's got to stop it. I tell you, folks round here ain't gonna let us fret." "Folks, Ma?" The words burst from the boy's heart. "Did they find out? You showed it to 'em? Uncle Clem?" Ma sniffed. "Clem? Oh, he was real took aback, but he don't count in on this. Not big enough." Then triumph hastened her story. "It's the big ones that's mixing into this, Lukey. Seems like they heard something a spell back in one of the county papers, and we didn't know. Anyhow, when I first got into town, I met Judge Gear. He had me right into his office in Masonic Hall, 'fore I could get my breath almost. Had me setting in his private room, and sent a stenographer out for a cup of coffee for me. He had me give him the letter to read, and asked dare he make some copies. The stenographer took 'em like lightning, right there. The judge had a hard time of it, coughing and blowing over that letter. He's going to send some copies to the New York papers right off. He took me across the hall and introduced me to Lawyer Richie. Lawyer Richie, he read the letter too. A hero. They called Nat and me a hero's mother. 'We ain't gonna forget this, Mrs. Hines,' Lawyer Richie said. 'This here whole town's proud of your Nat.' My land, I couldn't sense it all. Me, Delia Haynes, getting her hand wrung, kinda anything Nat had been doing, by the big bugs round town. Judge Gear, he fetched 'em all out of their offices. Slade, the supervisor, and Fuller Brothers, and old Sumner Pratt, and all. And Ben Watson asked could he have a copy to put in the bi-weekly. It's gonna take the whole front page, with an editorial inside. He said the Rockville Center-News'd most likely copy it, too. I was like in a dream. All I'd aimed to do was to let some of them folks know that those people crossed the ocean had thought well of our Nat, and here they was breaking their necks to get in on it, too. Going down the street there was more of it. Lou Schiffer run right out of the hardware store and left the nails he was weighing to shake hands with me. And Jem Brand came, and Landlord Peters come out of the Valley House and spoke to me. I felt awful public. And Jim Beckenridge come out of the Emporium to shake, too. 'I ain't seen you down in town for quite a spell,' he says. 'How are you all up there to the farm? Want to say I'm real proud of Nat, a boy from round here,' he says. Old Beckenridge, that was always wanting to arrest Nat for taking his chestnuts or fooling down in the store. I just let 'em drift, seeing they had it all fixed for me. All along the street they come and spoke to me. Mammy Parmley, that ain't been able to see me for 3 years, left off sweeping her porch and come down and shook my hand, and cried about it. And that stylish Mrs. Willoughby, that's president of the Civil Club, followed me all over the square and asked dare she read a copy of the letter and tell about Nat to the schoolhouse next Wednesday. It seems Judge Gear had gone out and spread a broadcast that I was in town, for they followed me everywhere. Next thing, I run into Reverend Kearns and Reverend Higby, hunting me hard. They both had one ID. We wanted to have a memorial service to the churches 'bout that, they says. Then it come over us that it was the town's affair, really. So, Mrs. Haynes, they says, we want you should share this thing with us. You mustn't be selfish. You gotta give us a little part in it, too. Are you willing? It knocked me dumb, me giving anybody anything. Well, to finish, there's to be a big public service in the town hall on Friday. They'll have it all flags, French ones and our'n too. And the ministers'll preach, and Judge Gear'll tell that story and speak about him. And the ladies' guild'll serve a big hot supper, because there'll probably be hundreds out, and they'll read the letters and have prayers for our Nat. She faltered a moment. And we'll be there too, you and me and Tom, settin' in the seat of honor, right up front. It'll be the greatest funeral service this town's ever seen, Luke. Ma's face was crimson with emotion. And Uncle Clem and Aunt Molly? Oh, them! Ma came back to earth and smiled tolerantly. They was real sharp to be in it, too. Molly took me into the parlor and fetched a glass of wine to strengthen me up. Ma mused a moment, then spoke with a touch of patronage. I'm going to knit Clem some new socks this winter. He says he can't get none like the old-time wool ones, and the market floors are cold. Clem's done what he could, and I'll be real glad to help him out. Oh, I asked them to come and set with us at the service. Snorter, too. I allowed we could manage to spare em the room. She dreamed again, launched on a sea of glory, then roused to her final triumph. But that's only part, Luke. The best's a-comin'. Jim Beckenridge wants you to go down and see him. That lame boy of yours, he says, wasn't here a spell ago with some notion about raising bees and buckwheat together and getting the city market for buckwheat honey, slipped my mind, he says, till I heard what Nat had done, and then it all come back. City party this summer had the same notion and was looking out for a likely place to invest some cash in. You send that boy down and we'll talk it over. Shouldn't wonder if he'd get some backing. I calculate I might help him myself. He says, I've been thinking of it too. Don't seem like it could hardly be true. Oh, Ma! Luke's pulses were leaping wildly. Buckwheat honey was the dear dream of many a long hour's wistful meditation. If we could, I could study up about it and send away for printed books. We could make some money. But Ma had not yet finished. And there's some about Tom, too, Luke. That young Dr. Wells down there, he's only been there a year. He come right up and spoke to me in the midst of several. I want to talk about your boy, he says. I've wanted to for some time, but didn't like to make bold, but now seems as good a time as any. They're all talking of him, I says. Well, he says, I don't mean the dead, but the living boy, the one folks call Big Tom. I've heard his story, and I got a good look over him down here in the store a while ago. Woman, he says it just like that. If that big boy of yourn had a little operation, he'd be as good as any. I answered impatient, and told him what ailed Tom, and why it couldn't be no different. Just what old Doc Andrews told us, that there was a little piece of bone drove deep into his skull that time he fell. He spoke real violent then. But, my Lord, woman, he says, that's what I'm talking about, if we jack up that bone. Trepanning, he called it, too. His brains'll get to be like anybody else's. Told me he wants for us to let him look after it. Won't cost anything unless we want. There's a hospital to Rockville would tend to it, and glad to, when we get ready.
My poor Tommy! Don't seem's if it could be true."
Her face softened, and she broke up suddenly.
"I got good boys all round,"
she wept.
"I always said it, and now folks know."
Luke lay on the old settle, thinking. In the air-tight stove the hickory faggots crackled, with jeweled color play. On the other side Tom sat whittling silently. Tom, who would presently whittle no more, but rise to be a man. It was incredible that the old place might some day shake off its shackles of poverty and be organized for a decent struggle with life. Incredible that Ma, stepping briskly about getting the supper, should be singing. Already the room seemed filled and warmed with the odors of prosperity and self-respect. Ma had put a red geranium on the table. There was the crispy fragrance of frying salt pork and soda biscuit in the air. These the Hayneses! These people, with hope and self-esteem once more in their hearts! These people, with a unique place in the community's respect! It was all like a beautiful miracle, and, thinking of its maker, Luke choked suddenly and gulped. There was a moist spot on the old Mexican hairless right under his eyes, but it had been made by tears of pride, not sorrow. Ma was right. A hero's folks hadn't ought to cry, and he wouldn't. Nat was better off than ever, safe and honored. He had trod the path of glory. A line out of the boy's old reader sprang to his mind. Quote, "The paths of glory lead but to the grave." Unquote. Oh, but it wasn't true. Nat's path led to life, to hope, to help for all of them, for Nat's own. In his death, if not in his life, he had rehabilitated them. And Nat, who loved them, would look down and call it good. In spite of himself, the boy sobbed, visioning his brother's face. "Oh, Nat," he whispered, "I knew you'd do it. I always said you'd do something big for us all." End of section 27.